Hi everyone, it's Zeralt here with the Midweek Zap, and today's guest is Ben Fisher from Steady Demand, and we're going to be talking about setting up your business page, why you should have one, and answering questions, your questions about business page, and also a little bit about demand. And we have a couple of people. Tim, you have a question. Oh no, you know what? Let's do it. I'm racing ahead of myself. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey Zara, how's it going? Thanks for having me on today. Second show for today. Woo! So I am the co-founder of SteadyDemand.com, and basically what what we do is we help companies with basically their business presence on Google+. Everything from figuring out, why should you even be on Google+, what the strategy, what the intent is, to figuring out strategies on how to do campaigns and really work together inside of the organization, whether you're a two-man company or you're a Fortune 500 type company. And been helping small businesses actually succeed online since 1994. So that was 4 years before Google really even became Google. Actually, back then, just a little bit of trivia for everybody, if you don't know, Google was actually called Backrub back in the day. This is before they really started coming out. And, but yeah, worked in hundreds of niches and just been really helping people kind of understand how to use technology and do internet marketing, always with a return on investment. At the end of the day, that's what we always try to keep in mind.
Return on investment is pretty important, Ben.
Yes.
So we're doing our experiment today, inviting audience members in to ask their questions personally, and Tim just left on board the other day and asked his question. Tim, you want to tell folks your question, and we'll see what Ben answers.
Sure. Hi, Zara and Ben. How are you?
Hey, Tim. Good to see you.
Tim.
All right. So let me give you a little scenario. What I do is I have a handful of clients, and I'm kind of like they call me their digital wet nurse. Those are their words, not mine.
Digital wet nurse. I love it.
Well, they call me that. So a lot of this, and I also know other organizations who say, look at, what's the deal with this Google thing? And I explained to them, you could have a Google Plus page, but just having the page, there's more to that. You should have an associated profile, if I understand correctly. That's the way, my understanding is. And it's not just something you set up a page and start firing content on it. And when I explained to them, look, you should have a profile, which not only should be like an ownership profile, but also maybe someone who is authoritative associated with the business who will build up their own profile with, maybe it's a law firm, okay? But when you say, look, you're going to be putting your face out there, and you could publish blog posts, they kind of melt like a candy bar, and they say, well, I don't want to do that. So the question is, could you be almost a ghostwriter for them? And I think Google's position on that is no. Your profile, you should represent yourself, not have an agency do it. But then there's reality where I've read some agencies, not yours, Ben, but people say, well, we've done this before. So what do you suggest in the case where businesses, they don't want to have that public profile identity to go along with the page? I mean, how do you approach that?
It's a great question, and actually it's a question that I get asked a lot because some people are shy, some people are busy. Right? There's a lot of different reasons why the CEO will not want to get involved. And I'll give you an example. So I was talking to a gentleman who's out of Maui, and he runs a Hawaiian kind of surfing type of school. And we were talking exactly about this, the exact same situation. I've got the brand page. I really want to share my experience with my clients, but I really don't have anything to say. Even though he's an expert at surfing, he has nothing that he feels like he can contribute to the conversation, right? And also doesn't have time. He's out there busy surfing the waves and doing corporate, events basically for companies. So basically in that situation, and again, every situation though is different. That's the important thing to remember. It's all different for everybody. But generically, I guess the way to explain it would be is that your business has a voice. The people behind the business have a voice. So, and you're right in the aspect that Google does not like personal profiles to be ghost profiles. So they don't want them to be ghost-written profiles. So the way that I would approach it is say is okay, so you've got your business page, you've got your blog articles, right? And the kind of the strategy would be is to share the blog content and maybe have them as the authorship, right? So the owner, the CEO, whatever, let's just call him Bob. Bob is the author, and it's tied to his personal profile from that blog content. That blog content is shared by somebody at the company or by somebody else with some additional, of course, thoughts and insight to the brand page. Now, at that point, then you could do one of two things, and that is that, say, the VP of marketing or the assistant or whatnot could say, hey, we're going to be sharing out this blog post. We want to share this to your personal profile. We know you don't have the time to do it, but can you make a comment about this topic? Get that comment from the topic, and then somebody like an assistant or somebody could now share from the brand page to the personal profile with the CEO's comment. It's not directly the CEO making that content, but it is his insights. It's his thoughts on it, or her thoughts on it. So that's one way to basically handle that type of scenario. The flip side to that coin now, though, and where I think things get a little bit important is that because it is a profile of somebody that's in the company, is that what happens when people actually start engaging on his or her personal profile? That's where things can get a little bit dicey, because now you want the CEO to basically, you want to encourage them to interact. They may or may not have that ability or that time, but again, you could still have that intermediary step where maybe the assistant comes back and says, hey, by the way, somebody left this comment. Do you have anything that we can post about this comment? Another tactic that you could also use is you could set up like Sprout Social or Hootsuite or something of that nature where it lines it up in a queue, and then you have your social media manager delegate basically that comment or that post to CEO. And so that way, at nighttime or when they have some downtime or whatever, if it sends them an email alert, now they can go ahead and they can reply to it in their own time. Where things get sticky, of course, is depending on the size of the organization. If the organization is, let's say 150 people, or plus, right, it might actually have to go through PR, the PR department, before the CEO can actually respond. But at the end of the day, without being too long-winded about this answer, is you do want somebody to be there to be transparent for the organization, because transparency and thought leadership is what wins in this new digital economy. If somebody in the organization is not willing to personally put their foot forward, then let the brand be the voice. That would be my end, I guess, the last piece of advice. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ben. That was a great full explanation. That was there was so much to that, and also you're right. CEOs often don't want to do that personal one-on-one stuff. They're busy with other things, and so you need to figure out a way to cover that aspect, the engagement aspect on Google Plus, because engagement just needs to happen for anything to happen. Lee, Tim, are you done with your questions?
I'll let someone else go ahead. I mean, I know we have
Okay,
other people on
let's
the panel. So
bring Preston on. I know you had a whole string of questions as well, Preston.
Yeah, I kind of asked them in the stream, but one of the things that I, run into a lot, I guess, is, I'm not a big corporation. I'm a small entrepreneur. I have a lot of different projects and a lot of different companies that I represent, being a consultant. And just trying to brand myself is a challenge in itself. But what I'm noticing is that when I'm using my personal profile in Google Plus, obviously I get a little bit more reaction than when I get it from the business page. But what I'm trying to figure out is, how do I get people into my business page? I know there's a place in the business page where you can share it with your stream, but can you go the other way around where you can share your business page using your personal profile?
So, yeah, and it kind of dovetails actually into what we were talking about here with Tim. And that is that, so your personal profile is almost always going to get more traction as a small business, because again, people buy from people, right? And brands, have a kind of a stigma of being a little bit more distant, unless of course you put your personality into the brand, which is what I would encourage you to do, actually. So, but they're still going to relate to you on a kind of a more one-to-one basis, right? So, again, going with that same kind of tactic and strategy of your content that is related to your business goes to the brand page, and then from your personal profile, you're sharing the business information. But when you're sharing the post from your brand page to your personal profile, share it with your own insight. So leave the original content that is about the business on the brand page, and your personal insight now moves over onto your personal profile. At the end of the day, though, as a person, because you're the lead, you need to also be engaging in both places. So you need to be engaging with your personal following, and you need to engage with your brand following. Now, another thing that I also see with a lot of people is that there will end up being a little bit of confusion between the two, because you're kind of bouncing back and forth, and you've got way different followings on both, right? Different following on the brand, different following on the personal. What I really encourage you to do is basically manage your circles and your streams appropriately. Use the tool like Circloscope to really hone your audience. Hone the audience on your brand page, hone it on your personal page, and then groom the audience basically on both sides as to what they expect. As to what they can expect. So, the brand voice might be just a little bit more different than your personal voice. On your personal page, you might have a good morning post, you might have a good night post, but you're not going to do that on your brand page. So just manage the different voices and leverage your personal audience and let them know that you are the person that's behind that brand.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's along the same line like you said. I guess I wasn't thinking of that. And then the other question I guess I had is, what is the best way? I already said that. Okay, so you're saying basically do both, but then use just your personal brand. I mean, your personal profile just for personal information, taking your brand post, whatever it happens to be, and making a comment on it. So then it will draw people. But the question I have is then, how do you take that business profile page into your personal profile? I mean, there's that button where it says share with. That's what you use?
Yeah, so you use actually just the regular share button.
Share this page, okay.
To share that comment, right? Share the post. Here's a handy tip for you. I don't know if you're using it, but the circle count Chrome extension is really, really handy posting, for switching between profiles and pages. So you could be on your business page as yourself, and then so you make your post, right? And then just go to Circle Count, select your personal profile. It stays on that same page or post, and now share it as yourself. And then you can share it to your personal then now you're sharing it as yourself to your personal profile.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is just a great conversation, and we had 2 experiments today. One was bringing people in live to ask questions, and I really want to thank Preston and Tim for joining us and doing that. And the other was the Showcase app, and I'm so sorry, folks. I didn't realize that it would just go live automatically, and I've seen you all struggling, and I really do apologize. So I want to thank Lee and Heidi especially for guiding other members of the audience through this experiment that is not working. We won't do it again, and thanks for hanging in with us. I really want to thank everyone, and Coach G. Moore, the same thing. Thanks for your tips and helping our audience. So if you go up to that little square with the arrow, you'll get a pop-up screen with us live, and you can still comment, but it's not as easy as that, because whenever you comment, it goes behind the rest, and it's just not very functional. So we won't be doing it again. We had 2 experiments. One is definitely not working. The other is working. So thank you so much for hanging in with us on the Midweek Zap today. And then, Ben, I have a question for you. Going back to the personal page and the business page, and I'm hoping that you can expand on what you meant by grooming your audience.
Okay. So do you have okay, so you want to just kind of go a little bit more into how to groom your audience?
Well, yes, grooming. What would the difference be between grooming your audience on your profile page as opposed to grooming the business page audience? What are the differences? What are you thinking when you're grooming your business audience, and what do you? I mean, I think we all know pretty much what we're doing when we're grooming our profile audience, but give us some examples of what the differences would be and how we would hone that, and especially how we would hone that to get more engagement on our business page.
So from a psychological standpoint, whenever we're talking about like grooming your audience, right? Like for instance, one of my colleagues, Dustin Stout, he has groomed his audience to expect beautiful images on every single one of his posts because he's very creative and he's very visual. So his audience expects it. And if he doesn't do an image, they kind of go, huh? What? What's wrong with Dustin? Oh my gosh. Stefan Hovnanian, who's also on our team, he doesn't use images a lot. Sometimes he'll do text updates, link updates. It's about strategy. So it's really all about intent. So to get the best engagement on your business page or your personal profile, it's trying to strive to be consistent. But again, you're always really want to stick to who you are or what your brand voice is. And that's the important, excuse me, that's the important aspect, is sticking to it, basically. With a brand page, one of the things that we try to do is, for instance, whenever we bring on a new customer, we build out a persona, basically, for the customer. And we say, okay, here's who your audience is, these are your demographics, this is what they expect, or this is what they want to learn. Here's what their pain points are, the questions that they have, and what they really need. So when you build out that persona, you can basically build your brand voice around that. Most larger companies already have brand personas that they've built out, Most small companies that we've dealt with, whether they be two people up to 50 people, have not, because they haven't had the time to build a persona. What I would highly encourage anybody to do is just go out there and Google it and be like, how can I build a customer, basically a buyer persona or a customer persona? And it's really actually not that difficult to do. Another easy way to build a persona is just ask your customers questions. Ask them what they want to hear. If you have an email list, use that email list. A perfect examples are for your show. It would be is to send everybody from a subscription circle or your email list and say, what did you think about this week's show? We're using the Showcase app. Do you want to see us do this more again? Or, hey, you've got this guy, Ben Fisher, on your show. What did you think about his answers? Did you like them? Do you want to see more people like this? You're building out that's building trust. You're being very authentic. You're being very open to change. But more importantly, you're going to be addressing the needs of what your customer, well, not what your customer, what your audience, in that sense, wants. So, yeah, that's the answer to that question.
Okay, thank you so much, because I think for a lot of people, it's hard to distinguish, what am I going to be doing on my personal page and what am I going to be doing on my brand page, and what do you do? And I like your suggestion, because my email list is pretty much used to getting me, and so I think that's a great way for me and other people to get the email list more involved with the brand page. I mean, my brand page has just been basically sitting there, I mean, I haven't been working the engagement, and this is really inspiring me to go out there and do a lot more with my brand page. And I once again want to thank everybody in our audience for hanging in there with the Showcase app. And Stefan, of course, figured out a different way to watch it, and that is on the blog itself. So if you're really struggling with the Showcase app, he posted the link in the comment tracker, so you can go there and watch the rest of the show without being cloning yourself on Google+. Thanks, Stefan.
Actually, Zara, I was just thinking about something there, and there's one more thing that I think that's important to understand about between the difference between a personal profile and a brand page profile. Is we always talk about David Emmer land here on Google+, and that is about semantic search, okay? And more importantly, about how G+ is basically one of the ways that we're teaching Google about who your company is and what your company is about. And so the posts that are going on your brand page, how they're crafted, what kind of hashtags you use, the type of language that you use, this is all feeding information to Google. And the connections between your brand page, like the rel equals publisher link and such, it's all very important, because everything is tying back to your website and your business. So that's why it's really important, even if you do have a personal brand, like you're a chef, or like I was talking to a musician the other day. They're like, well, I'm a very well-known musician. Why do I need a business page? Well, because you know what? Yeah, you're definitely, people know you as a person, but they don't know you. Google doesn't know you as a business. So it's another way of just educating Google, in a sense, about your business, and that's all another reason why a brand page is very important.
Oh, that's such a great point, because we've really been focused on individual versus corporate, and basically the information is, be yourself, and talk to the people who are there, but also in the back of any kind of marketing strategy, it's talking to Google search as well. And I really am so glad you brought that up, because we were getting focused on people versus corporate, and there's a whole other component. There's a whole other component that gets you and your brand known, and that is through the content that you provide in both places.
Yep, and I've got to give a shout out here really quick to Lee Rickler, because he says brand page versus personal page, 50% work, 50% play. And that's so true. Good point, Lee.
Okay, and then, yeah, that was great. I like that. And then, Preston, you want to come and ask another question here?
Well, I just wanted to say, is it, you said circle something. I have a Circloscope, but I don't think I have the one that you mentioned.
That it's called Circle Count.
Circle Count, okay.
Yeah. Circle Count has a lot of great data, but they have a Chrome extension, which is just really, really handy at, I love it for switching profiles.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm trying, I was just in my business profile while I was listening to you guys, and I obviously had a post this morning, but when you share it, you can only share it publicly following or team members. You can't actually share it to your profile.
From your business, yeah, you can, right, so that way you would switch from the business profile over to your personal profile, and then you would share it, basically, at that point.
So you make, okay, so since I'm in the business, I'm sorry if I'm a little slow on this.
It's okay, it's okay.
So you're in your business profile, you're saying switch over to view as myself, not public?
Right, so ignore public at the moment, because
Okay.
public is where you're sending the message, right?
Yeah.
We're talking from a mechanical standpoint. I'll lay it out real quick. Thanks, Zara, for letting me go over time here. So,
oh, that's okay. There's just so much great information going on here. Preston, did that answer your question?
No, I'm going to lay it out real quickly.
Okay.
So you're on your brand page,
Mhm.
and up in the upper right-hand corner, it's got your brand page icon, right? So the brand page is here. When you have the Circle Count extension in, you click on the Circle Count extension. It brings up a little window, and then there's a drop-down in the upper left of that window that you can choose all the brand pages that you manage and your personal profile.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You select your personal profile, the page refreshes real quick, and then now all of a sudden up in the upper right-hand corner, your face is actually what shows. That means that you're now on your you're on your brand page, but you're on your brand page as your personal profile. So at this point, now you go to the post, you click on the share button, and when you're that share button, then it'll say public in the bottom. If it doesn't, you just select public or whatever circles you're going to share it to. And then you share it, and now it's going to share it from that brand page to your personal profile.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hopefully
Yeah,
other people felt the same way.
Circle Count is a very handy tool, and I'm noticing lately that it's not mentioned a lot, but it is an extraordinarily handy tool with Chrome.
Yep.
And
just a shameless plug is, since we're using the Showcase app, why not?
yeah,
One of the links that we have is a free tool that Steady Demand created, and you put your business page profile, not personal page, business page profile into the brand page audit tool, and and we'll check 7 points basically to make sure your website is properly connected to your business page, and then we also grade your last 10 posts and tell you how you're doing. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
yeah. And since we're on Showcase, the Steady Demand link is straight to that page, so you can check out your business page with Steady Demand. And then stuff I wanted to bring up. I've got stuff going on here. Stefan, of Nanian says, great point about always looking for feedback, and your audience will begin to tell you without asking to. I just wanted to stress that because Ben had a lot of information coming out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love teaching, Sarah. You know, so I mean that's why today when we were talking about the show on Monday, I was like, yeah, if Lee or anybody has any questions, bring them on in.
Yeah, I know. I love audience interaction, and we're going to do this more on future shows. I think this part of this experiment has been just really terrific, and I want to thank Tim and Preston for jumping on board and coming in and asking their questions. That's just really great. And I really want to apologize once again to the rest of you in the audience for having to deal with 2 screens, and that was not my intention at all. So thank you very much. So Preston, do you have any other questions? We're kind of winding down here. Let's see. And Tim?
Actually, I still have one question.
Okay.
Go for it.
Ben, what do you suggest if, okay, let's say you create the brand page for organization. Do you ever try to give it a boost through your own personal profile? I've seen different things. For example, I've seen people suggest, well, I'll never promote a client through my own profile. I mean, I could see where I could think of all kinds of companies I could approach, and they might actually go for it, but I don't want to represent them through my personal profile at all because they're what they do. It's not illegal or anything. It just doesn't fit who I am.
Actually, so there is. I'm not a lawyer, but there is some legal implications actually with the FTC, because if they're a client of yours and they are paying you, and you share that post, and you're like, "This is a great company." Well, you probably won't get on the FTC's radar, but if you do, you're in a lot of trouble, and your client's in a lot of trouble. But the way that I always position it is this, is A, don't say that you're going to do this, right? B, if it's content that you actually enjoy personally, then of course, why wouldn't you share it? And but when you do share it, definitely want to disclose. This is a client of mine, maybe this is a blog article I wrote, and I just want to share it with you, because I thought you might enjoy it. But at least that way you're being transparent about it. You're being your audience is not being betrayed, right? At the same time, and you're doing right by your client also, just by being transparent too. Does that answer your question? Tim might be frozen, Sarah, by the way. And you're muted, Sarah.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, Tim is frozen, so I hope we answered Tim's question sufficiently. And Preston, you asked me a personal question, and I'll ask you as soon as the show is over. I really want to thank Ben for being here today. First of all, Ben, you're a lot of fun.
Thank you.
And you tackle all these concepts and business know-how with just such an approachable way of being. It's just a delight to have you here on the show. And I really want to thank you. Yeah, Tim is gone. I really want to thank you for sharing your expertise today. It's just been a delight. I want to thank all the audience members who hung in with us with the showcase experiment that didn't work. I just thank you so much. And once again, Tim and Preston, thanks so much for joining in on our other experiment, and we're definitely going to do this some more. So, folks, that's it for the Midweek Zap today. Next week, Alexandra Aurica Gonzalez is going to be with us and talking about communication and communication on Google Plus, and that should be a lot of fun. She's a real smart gal. So
Alex is awesome.
yeah, she is. She is just awesome. So hope you can join us. And we will not have showcase. I promise you, we won't have showcase. And it'll be a lot easier to interact. Anyway, thank you for bearing with us. Thanks, Ben, for just the awesome information. It was just fantastic. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.